Chrome is the most popular browser on Earth, and its default settings are configured to serve Google's interests, not yours. That is not a conspiracy theory. It is the obvious business reality of a free product built by a company whose primary revenue is advertising. Google collects data to serve better ads. Better ads generate more revenue funds further development. The cycle is self-sustaining, and Chrome is one of the primary mechanisms through which that data collection happens. The settings that come enabled by default are not neutral choices made for your benefit. They were engineered to maximize data flow toward Google's servers, to preload content that keeps you engaged, and to monitor your behavior in granular detail. Some of these settings genuinely do improve your experience, many do not, and a meaningful number actively drain your battery, consume your data, and transmit information about your browsing habits that you would not consciously choose to share if the process were visible to you. This video is going to walk through every setting worth changing, tell you exactly where to find it, explain precisely what it is doing and why changing it matters, and give you an honest assessment of the trade-offs involved. Because the goal is not to scare you into disabling Chrome entirely. It is to give you the information you need to use it on your terms rather than on Google's. Let us start with the setting that has the most measurable combined impact on battery life, data usage, and performance, because getting this one right makes an immediate, tangible difference. Open Chrome on your Android device. Tap the three-dot menu in the top right corner. Go to Settings. Tap Privacy and Security. Look for Preload Pages. What you will find is a three-option menu. No preloading, standard preloading, and extended preloading. On most phones, the default is standard. Change this to no preloading. Here is what preloading is actually doing. Chrome uses algorithms to predict which links you are likely to tap based on your browsing history and behavior patterns. When you pause on a search results page or hover over a link or simply sit on a news site, Chrome begins downloading the content of pages you have not visited yet. The theory is that if it downloads them in advance, the page will appear to load instantly when you tap. The reality is more complicated. Testing on T-Mobile LTE showed preload activity consumed 1.2 megabytes per hour in idle state. Over an 8-hour workday, that is nearly 10 megabytes of data downloaded for pages you might never visit. On a mobile data plan, that cost is real. The prediction accuracy is also far from perfect, with a Stanford HCI lab study putting the false positive rate at 39%, meaning more than a third of the time Chrome is preloading a page you never open. And all of that speculative downloading consumes RAM and CPU cycles, keeping your processor active when it should be resting. Disabling preloading eliminates this background activity entirely. Pages take a normal amount of time to load rather than appearing instantaneous, but the difference is typically under 200 milliseconds in real-world conditions, a delay most users cannot consciously perceive. The battery and data savings are immediate and measurable. Note for iPhone users. Apple's App Store rules prohibit third-party browsers from using custom networking stacks, which means Chrome on iOS is a WebKit wrapper that cannot implement preloading controls in the same way. For data savings on iOS, use Safari's built-in low data mode under Settings, then Cellular, then low data mode. The second setting to change is background data access. This is where Chrome's behavior becomes genuinely surprising, because this affects what Chrome does when you're not using it at all. To address this on Android, long press the Chrome icon on your home screen, tap App Info, tap Mobile Data Usage. You will see a toggle labeled Background Data. Turn this off. What background data access allows is for Chrome to continue performing network operations even when the app is not visible on your screen. Tab refreshing, content preloading, sync updates, and other processes run in the background, consuming both data and battery while you are doing something else entirely, or while your phone is sitting on a table doing nothing. Disabling background data prevents Chrome from initiating any of these operations when you're not actively using the browser. Chrome will still do everything you need the moment you open it. It simply stops operating as a background service between your browsing sessions. The third setting involves search suggestions, and this one has a privacy dimension that is worth understanding clearly. In Chrome's settings, go to Google Services. Look for improved search suggestions and turn it off. Also in the general settings, find autocomplete searches and URLs, and consider disabling this as well. Here's what is happening when you type in Chrome's address bar. By default, every character you type is sent to Google's servers in real time, before you have finished your thought, before you have pressed enter, before you have decided whether to search or cancel. The partial query, along with metadata about your device and session, is transmitted to Google to generate autocomplete suggestions. For most searches, this is largely invisible and feels like a useful feature. But consider what this means in practice. If you start typing a medical concern and then delete it, Google has still received that partial query. If you type part of a URL for a site you decide not to visit, that intention has been transmitted. Every exploratory thought you begin typing in the address bar is shared with Google before you have made any decision to share it. Disabling autocomplete and search suggestion transmission stops this real-time character-by-character monitoring. You can still search Google and get results. Chrome simply stops transmitting your keystrokes as you type them and waits for you to actually initiate a search. The fourth area is background sync. In Chrome's settings, tap Site Settings, look for background sync, and change it to block. Background sync is a web technology that allows websites to run processes and transmit data to their servers even after you have closed the tab or left the site. Its legitimate use case is for messaging apps or services that need to complete a task you were in the middle of if your connection drops. In practice, across most of the websites ordinary users visit, it is used to upload behavioral telemetry, session duration data, scroll depth tracking, and refer information to the site's analytics or advertising infrastructure. A 7-day audit across 18 commonly visited sites, including Reddit, X, and Medium, found that background sync triggered 47 unsolicited uploads totaling 2.1 megabytes, mostly in the form of JSON payloads containing browsing behavior data without any user action initiating those uploads. Blocking background sync globally stops this. The trade-off is that a small number of web applications, specifically progressive web apps designed to function offline, may behave slightly differently. If you encounter a specific site that genuinely needs background sync, you can grant it as an individual site permission while keeping the global setting blocked. The fifth area is notifications. And this one is less about battery drain and more about the incremental permission expansion that has made Chrome on mobile so much noisier than it needs to be. Go to Settings, then Site Settings, then Notifications. At the top level, you can toggle off notifications entirely. If you prefer a more targeted approach, scroll through the list of sites that have been granted notification permissions and revoke them from any site you did not deliberately choose to receive notifications from. Notification requests in Chrome on mobile work by asking for permission during a page visit, often in a moment when users tap Allow without reading what they are agreeing to. The result for most users is that dozens of websites have notification access they were effectively tricked into granting. Each of those permissions represents a channel through which that site can push content to your device at any time, consuming battery and attention. The sixth change is location access, and the path here runs through both Chrome's site settings and your phone's system settings. In Chrome, go to Settings, then Site Settings, then Location. Change the default from Allow to Block for the Ask First behavior. Review the existing permission list and revoke location access from any site that does not have a clear reason to know where you are. Then go to your phone's system settings for Chrome specifically. On Android, go to Settings, then Apps, find Chrome, then Permissions, then Location. Change this from precise to approximate, or revoke it entirely if you do not use any web-based navigation or mapping features. Location data is among the most commercially valuable personal information Chrome collects. The combination of browsing history and precise location creates a profile of enormous utility for advertisers and data brokers. Restricting location access at both the Chrome permission level and the system level limits what can be inferred about your physical movements from your browser usage. The seventh setting is Less, which is the official name of Google's Reduce Motion Accessibility option. But the more substantive change worth making is disabling unnecessary media autoplay, which both wastes data and contributes to the scattered, attention-fragmenting character of mobile browsing. In Chrome on Android, go to Settings, then Site Settings, then Sound. Setting this to muted does not stop videos from autoplaying, but it stops them from playing sound without your initiation, which reduces one of the primary forms of involuntary content engagement. For more complete autoplay control, this is an area where the flag system can help. In Chrome's address bar, type Chrome, flags, and press Enter. Search for autoplay, and you will find additional experimental settings for restricting media autoplay more comprehensively than the standard settings allow. These flags should be approached with some caution since they are experimental, but the autoplay-related ones are among the most widely used and stable of the flags options. The eighth area to address is Chrome Sync, specifically what is being synced and where that data goes. Go to Chrome Settings and tap Sync. You will see a list of categories: history, passwords, autofill, open tabs, extensions, bookmarks. Reviewing these individually and disabling sync for categories you do not actively need to share across devices limits the quantity of browsing data stored in your Google account. Search history sync in particular means every query is permanently associated with your account, rather than existing only on your device. If you're signed into Chrome with your Google account, your browsing history across sessions is being associated with your identity and stored in Google's servers. This is what enables personalized ad targeting across Chrome, Google Search, YouTube, and Gmail on every device where you are signed into the same account. Understanding this is not a reason to sign out necessarily, but it is information that should factor into your decision about what you leave enabled. The ninth change is active tab management. And this is a behavioral habit rather than a settings toggle, but it has measurable performance implications. Chrome on Android keeps all open tabs partially alive in memory, refreshing dynamic content, maintaining session states, and performing background activities for each one. Research testing on a Pixel 6 running Chrome with 10 or more tabs open showed memory pressure increases that triggered app resource reclaiming from other applications, effectively making your phone slower for everything, not just Chrome. Access your tab overview by tapping the Tab counter button in Chrome. Make it a regular habit to close tabs you are done with rather than accumulating them indefinitely. Chrome's recent activity and history features mean you never actually lose access to a page you have visited. Closing a tab does not delete your visit from history. It simply releases the memory and background processing resources that tab was consuming. If you find tab accumulation hard to manage, Chrome has a built-in tab grouping feature that lets you organize related tabs together. This makes it psychologically easier to close entire groups when a task is complete, rather than losing track of what you no longer need. The 10th and final area to address is the Chrome app associated with Google Discover, which operates somewhat independently of the Chrome browser itself. Google Discover, the feed of content cards that appears on the left swipe of most Android home screens or as part of the Google app, uses your Chrome browsing history to personalize its recommendations. Multiple users on Android forums reported fixing unexpected Chrome battery drain by disabling Google Discover, because the Discover feature continuously refreshes its feed, and any content you open from it renders through a Chrome-based viewer. To disable Discover, open the Google app, tap your profile icon, go to Settings, and look for Discover. Turn it off. This stops the continuous background feed refreshing and eliminates a significant secondary source of Chrome-adjacent battery drain that many users never connect to the browser itself. Now, let us be honest about what you're actually trading when you make these changes. Page loading for some sites will be slightly slower without preloading. Autocomplete will be less instantaneous without the real-time query transmission. Some sites that depend on background sync for their core functionality may behave differently. If you use Google Discover actively and find it valuable, disabling it removes something you genuinely use. The honest framing is that most of these settings represent a trade between convenience for you and data for Google. That trade was made on your behalf when Chrome shipped with these defaults enabled. This video is an opportunity to decide for yourself whether you would make the same trade knowingly with full information about what each setting is actually doing. For most users, disabling page, preloading, restricting background data, and revoking unnecessary site permissions produces a browser that is meaningfully faster in everyday use because it is no longer devoting background resources to speculative activity. Battery life improves because background processes that were running without visible benefit stop running. Data usage decreases because content is only downloaded when you have chosen to visit a page rather than in advance of a decision you might never make. And the amount of behavioral data flowing from your phone to Google servers narrows to what you deliberately choose to share rather than everything the default settings were designed to capture. Chrome is a good browser. It renders pages correctly, handles modern web standards well, syncs usefully across devices when that is what you want, and has a large ecosystem of features built around it. The settings we have walked through do not require you to replace it. They require you to configure it in a way that prioritizes your interests rather than Google's defaults. That configuration takes about 15 minutes the first time. The effects last as long as you keep using the phone.